Welcome everybody to another episode of Crouching Deadwood, and
Hidden Nebari.
how's it going, Scott?
Good, man. Yeah.
So here we are in Wellington again, and I'm down for some great client work as well as alongside your garden. And what's the weather been doing this week for you?
Maybe in the last 2 weeks, it's rained so much I've only had to water once.
And very windy too, those storms that came through.
Yeah, and although that we've had like 4 or 5 cold, like Wellington's version of cold, I feel like it's been unseasonably warm. Like it actually even had an oak that dropped all of its leaves like a month and a half ago, and now in the last 3 weeks it's put out a new little branch with leaves in winter.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Oaks can do some crazy things, I've noticed over the years.
Yeah. Like what?
That, for instance.
Okay. Yeah.
Pushing. So I hard pruned back an English oak month and a half ago, end of autumn, and that has, the buds have swollen. It's really back budded after cutting back, and a couple of the buds have opened as well and pushed in the middle of winter here in Aotearoa. And you've also got a very old craggy cedar, which is pushing new shoots everywhere.
Yeah.
The
Liberace.
Yeah, in the middle of July. So that's
We're in
pretty
the South
crazy.
Pacific, in the southern hemisphere for people that aren't here in Wellington or New Zealand. So our seasons are opposite. But
Opposite the northern hemisphere.
Yeah, we're right almost in the middle of winter.
Yeah.
Like in midwinter.
Yeah, in my garden we've had, I think, eight or nine frosts now, actually, in our valley, which has been fantastic for the conifers, really good for the Japanese white pines.
Yeah.
Yep, they love that cold. Good to kill off fungal problems too when you get these frosts coming through. It's been good. But some of our pūtekawas, even though we've had frosts, many of our pūtekawas are pushing buds at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I was going to mention that while I was down here the other day with a client, working on a client's garden in Upper Hutt. He mentioned what he thought was a flowering cherry or ume, Prunus moon, down the road from him. So we jumped in the car and went and checked it out, and it was a beautiful old ume, so Japanese flowering apricot. We're always looking for these, but this is a beautiful old specimen growing in someone's front yard over the fence, fully in bloom, and it was the pink ume, like the flowers are just beautiful. Anyway, that was really cool because we're always looking for these types of specimens to take cuttings off.
I think maybe a cutting accidentally showed up at my place.
Oh, did it?
I don't know how it got there, but
some little bird flew it in.
They're pests.
Yeah. Anyway, well, my client's going to hopefully take some nice cuttings off that, and we can get some beautiful pink ume going for bonsai, because they're still relatively hard to find here in Aotearoa as bonsai, and they're obviously not easy for bonsai either. Like a prunus, like a flowering cherry is much easier for bonsai in terms of care, faster growing. Ume, flowering apricot, tends to struggle with humidity and fungal problems.
Yeah.
But the thing is, if you can put the time in, they're so beautiful. Even when they're young and they haven't developed that beautiful dark, craggy bark, just the floral display and the fragrance of the blooms is to die for. So although they're hard work and take a lot of time, it's worth pursuing. Everybody get more Prunus moon going.
I would think that in our tiny little garden that I don't know if they can handle the wind.
Probably not. Yeah, they'll get pretty... you had a flowering cherry, remember?
I have it. It's going to John. We did a little swapsies.
Okay, yeah, because that struggled through summer with your wind. Kind of shreds the leaves, in your wind. So you might as well be on the top of a mountain.
No pun intended, right?
No. Yeah, so what did we get done with you? We got a lot of repotting done yesterday, didn't we? Some real bangers.
Yeah, we did 13 trees. After a quick observation, I'd have to say that it was dominated by Bad Swan ceramic containers from Brendan Norton in Australia.
Yeah, shout out to Bad Swan, like some fantastic ceramics coming over the ditch to Scott's Garden.
Yeah, so stoked. You could find Bad Swan Ceramics on Facebook and Instagram. And then Brendan has a separate page, Brendan Norton Ceramics, where he does some homewares that are also very creative and fun, from espresso mugs to different tumblers, a lot of really cool stuff. He's a busy potter.
He must
very
be
busy.
Yeah. But so yesterday we paired up a beautiful ceramic from him, Bad Swan, straight off the cuff, the Chinese quince.
Yeah,
that was beautiful. A really good combo. That was a round for a literati Chinese quince, Pseudo sinensis of Scots, which I actually started that from seed back in the day.
cool.
But it's a beautiful dancing literati form, very Penjing-like in style, paired up with that Bad Swan ceramic. It's a round with a lip, and it's a sort of off-white speckled glaze.
I think he calls it a magnesium white. Is the glaze?
Magnesium white.
And I believe it's on the Finney's brand clay body BRT. So it has that speckled character underneath the surface of the glaze. I think it's an atypical pairing. Like, not everybody would get on the dance floor with it, but I really enjoy textured, very natural, like rock looking pots quite a bit, but this is a lot more sophisticated, and he brought the A game.
Yeah, that was a great pairing. And what else did we get into yesterday for you in repotting?
Some interesting ones to discuss was that radiata, the younger one with the really nice bark, it ended up getting potted into a muted yellow, kind of like a mustard yellow with some brown speckles in it. And I don't think glazed pots should be overlooked for conifers.
Yeah, that's right. That was a great pairing. A radiata pine, sort of thin trunk, good bark, very elegant tree, but paired up with a yellow ceramic. It was just beautiful. I think it was pulling the speckled patches coming through.
I'm glad you remember this.
Were pulling on the tones of the bark really subtly. Yeah, and so it just really worked. Sometimes a composition just works. It's hard to explain. This was just really subtle tones through the bark of a radiata, which generally you'd think wouldn't really work with the yellow.
Yeah.
The brown tones, speckles coming through the glaze because of the BRT clay and the grogginess popping through, that just tied in with just subtle tones going up the trunk of the radiata, and it just worked. Yeah, it was
figurative texture with the spots on the yellow pot with the literal textural character of the bark.
Yeah, so that was really, really nice. Nice, happy one. We did a big redwood.
Yeah, I got brainstorming a Tracy Francis pot, another Australian potter. I had a round from her in a nice tapered sidewall round pot, and we got an oval trunk, so not round, an oval trunk, redwood. It's got some really cool movement and moves back the other way. It's got really fun taper. And we got that out of its collection container, and it had an abundance of roots. It really likes akadama.
So that substrate, so that was a redwood that you got from someone up Rotorua way.
Neil Watson.
And when we repotted it a year ago, it was weak. Minimal roots, So it was repotted in essentially 100% akadama, but we had the key thing was we had a big drainage layer down the bottom. So it was in a nursery container. We popped it back in a nursery container, and it was probably 200 mils of akadama and maybe 50 mil drainage layer of coarse pumice and scoria. And so a year later, we repotted it yesterday, and it was insane, the amount of roots. Was
fantastic. That was a bird up there.
In our bamboo forest. Oh, look what I'm holding, yes. You can tell it's repotting time here in Aotearoa because, look, what's important for repotting time? Can we even read that? It says Dan Becker Woodwork. You probably can't really see that. Dan Becker Woodwork. And you can't repot without good bamboo chopsticks.
Dan's the man. Thanks,
so,
Dan.
Get in touch with Dan if you need bamboo chopsticks. They do last a long time unless you're like myself and you wear them down so quick.
You've got a few that are like little...
Hundreds of trees, probably thousands by the end of repotting season. But yeah, we run through these. These are fantastic though. So get in touch with Dan Becker if you need some, because repotting season is upon us here in Aotearoa. Generally, we are repotting starting with the pines. They start...
In autumn?
Oh, well, if we haven't done an autumn repot, we're currently midwinter here.
Yeah.
If we're getting into repotting now, we're not talking about an autumn repot. We generally start with the pines because their roots start moving. They're moving now in the middle of July. You can tell as we're repotting those pines, we're taking them out and you can see those fine white tips. Yep, they're already on the go. So get into your repotting in Aotearoa, in most areas of Aotearoa now. Start with your pines. You can move through to the other conifers, junipers, and then flow through to the deciduous material when those buds are pushing.
Stepping back to the redwood, as we were taking it out of the akadama, it was really great because we knew that it was weak last time, and how we had to set it up because it was pretty top heavy and had a lot of growth on it. That when we were pulling the akadama off, it ended up being another 4.5 or 5 centimeters wider base.
Oh yeah.
So it just kept getting better, and we were like really excited.
Fantastic tree. You never know what lies beneath. Sometimes when you're getting a tree from somebody else. Oh, which we should touch on. When you do acquire trees from other gardens, it's worthwhile asking what it's potted in terms of substrate, and gauging that off the previous owner. And then also it's kind of worthwhile repotting at least one of them straight away if it's seasonally appropriate.
Just to
investigate, because we've noticed with acquiring trees from other people, if they might tell you what the substrate is, but if you're not careful and investigate, there can be odd things in those mixes, and if you just sit those in with the rest of your collection, and you shouldn't blanket water your collection anyway. Really, you should be checking tree to tree as you water through.
Test,
but many people, they'll just get. I've noticed this happening. They'll acquire a bunch of trees from someone else. Maybe they've been told what the substrate is, but they're just putting it in with the rest of their collection, and they're watering it the same amount, probably due to time restraints and stuff. Watering through all those trees at the same rate or quantity of water. And that can be super dangerous.
And to discuss this a little bit more clearly, because I think it'd be really useful for the listeners. So we could see the substrate if there's not moss on top of it. But this is a case where there was moss on the top. So it's good to ask what's underneath the moss and what it was repotted. Being real inquisitive so we could operate under best practices. I've done some repotting before, other people's trees, and I found blocks of polystyrene in the substrate, and I asked them...
Sitting over the drainage holes?
Yeah. Often? What the deal was, and they're like, it makes the whole thing lighter so it's easier to carry around, which is true, but do we have to consider off-gassing with polystyrene? Probably.
Yeah, just like the breakdown.
And then what are some funny things that you've seen in the substrate?
Tea bags. Over drainage holes. I have seen everything, including the kitchen sink, basically, in a pot, including trees potted in kitchen sinks. But anyway, the key thing is to know especially around the drainage holes, because you're acquiring a tree and oftentimes they're very wet, the substrate, I've found. It's Aotearoa, it's wet here, generally speaking, in most areas. And it's only getting wetter. The climate is just getting more humid, a lot wetter.
To continue on that topic, to ask you, because you're seeing far more trees than I do, when you're repotting private collections, have you been seeing people using an aeration layer and then a smaller particle above that in their repotting?
Yeah.
Or is that something you're introducing to them?
If it's a new client's garden, I'm probably introducing it to them on repotting if they haven't already been doing that with repotting, having a nice drainage layer, of course, substrate. But I think usually people are pretty clued onto it these days, having a nice drainage layer. It's pretty good on the whole. It's when you're acquiring trees from an older collection that are in weak health, may or may not have been repotted, and you're going into it, and the substrates it's usually broken down to mud. And what's concerning usually is what's around the drainage holes. If it's draining through, it shouldn't be an issue, but many times it's not. And we're lifting out, and it's a lot of rotten roots. And so the trees are struggling, which means we can't do a lot to them design-wise and get them aesthetically where the client wants to go straight away. It's very important when you get a tree of somebody else to do a repot when it's safe to do so, and just get the tree healthy so that you can execute your ideas, essentially.
I'll ask this question because I think it's important for everyone to hear, because our practices can be vastly different from garden to garden. Have you ever experienced instances where bonsai trees should have a organic soil in the mix?
No, not really, no. The fertilizer you add will be adding the organic to it. Yeah.
But I'm like talking like soil.
As in potting mix?
Yeah, like a potting mix. Do you ever?
Yeah. I still see it. A lot of people still use a potting mix to increase water retention. That's their thought process usually.
Would you say it's unnecessary?
But it isn't necessary. I mean, because you can balance the water by adjusting the size of the particles or the substrate you're using.
Yeah.
And it's in my garden, we were largely 100% pumice for a lot of the species that aren't in refinement. And we're just getting them, really good oxygen, water through it. Balance, yeah. It's when we're moving to refinement and getting that finer growth to the foliage pads and stuff, where we'll be introducing akadama if we want to just not go down the akadama road for whatever reason. We can just work with particle size to help slow or speed up that foliar growth.
Yeah.
Like I'm moving some of the black pines, clients' black pines and junipers, and also totara, into finer particle size to actually retain more water and slow down that growth, because it's just a little bit less oxygen coming through, and that's creating finer growth.
As in, you'll also be watering less.
Yeah, watering less, but just that smaller particle size, larger surface area, more particles, it's just holding more moisture rather than having to introduce inorganic content, because that breakdown of organic content, potting mix or pine bark, breaks down pretty fast. And, like we were mentioning previously, it's the off-gassing that can cause problems as that breaks down. Also breaks down and clogs the drainage holes quite quickly. So the ideal scenario is not to have to repot for as long as possible.
Or to quote Dan Robinson,
never repot.
Never repot.
But if your tree's moving towards refinement and you can pot it into a beautiful ceramic, or you might be putting it on a slab, or however it's going to be presented, the idea is to get that growth really stable and slow, and we can just work with that, slow down the growth, and hopefully not repot for as long as possible. So if there's percolation, we shouldn't have to repot.
And that's another way to look at it too. Like the soil, like the potting mix is going to break down really fast, as where volcanic substrate, you could use it for 6 or 8 years in optimal conditions, right?
Yep. Even here in Aotearoa, where it's reasonably wet, I mean, we can reuse that substrate. I'm repotting pines that have been, I'm repotting pines and even New Zealand natives, totara and stuff, where the particles haven't broken down for like 8 years. You know, we've got, whether it's 100% pumice, we can even reuse that pumice. It's not really breaking down. The finer stuff does, but you can reuse a lot of it. But yeah, so it's reasonably sustainable too. Yeah.
So since we were kind of talking about repotting some of the trees in my collection, we did a culling yesterday, and I think I've got about 15 trees that I'll be moving on. But it brings me to this question: how many trees are too much?
Oh, how long's a piece of string? I would say though that this is something many people don't think about when they initially get into bonsai. As you acquire more trees and they become more refined, that's equating to more work, not less.
A lot more work.
A lot more work. So I've got many clients now that are at the stage where things have all moved into refinement, and you might be looking at a collection of 50 trees or so.
Or more.
Or more, sometimes much more.
Yeah.
Oftentimes much more, 80 to 100 plus. But we'll work through a tree to keep it in refinement, to dial in those foliar pads, etc. And there's a lot of work to be done there to keep it at that beautiful refined level. So then the client's going, whoa, like this amount of workload for this tree. I don't want to see these let go and just run rampant again. So they're realizing how much work it is as you move to refinement. So they're moving on. We're moving on more of their trees. You're ending up with much higher quality over the quantity, because if you realistically think you're going to stay on top of 100 refined trees just yourself with no one helping out,
even 50 would be mind-blowing.
Even 50. I mean, you think about a refined juniper is, through the growing season, a lot of work. Cryptomeria, a lot of pinching. Redwoods, that's a lot of work. So think about that as you're going through. Cull your collection, move some on, keep ones that you know are going to be beautiful, and move the others on to people that you know would really enjoy them, to make sure your time is more focused on your refined trees and keeping on top of those refined trees, because seasonally, as you get more foliage, more refined foliage pads, that's more refining to be done on that one tree, because they're always growing. Yeah.
Should we talk about sustainable garden design, since that's in your wheelhouse?
Oh, that's definitely in my wheelhouse.
Would you define what that means to you, sustainable garden design?
For me, it is certainly designing a garden, say a bonsai garden, utilizing species that you can, I suppose, easily maintain for the aesthetics without too much workload. But it's thinking about what's planted around your bonsai garden and just beyond it too.
Like companion plants?
Yeah, and also, I mean, it depends where you're situated. In the city, you don't have too much control. You've got someone's hedge behind your fence or something, so you may have to maintain that. But if you're setting up a garden initially and you've got a bit of space, and you're fortunate to have a bit of space, you do want to think about the surrounding area, because those trees will grow. You will have to keep on top of them. Otherwise, kind of like Ryan has mentioned at Marai, the forest will take over. And it's going to encroach. It's always going to encroach on your bonsai garden. And I mean, I love setting up my own bonsai garden and designing it. Is definitely as much enjoyment for me designing the garden as it is designing a single bonsai, for sure. I oftentimes have more fun just compositionally creating the entire garden and that sort of setup. And everything that I've done, because our land was completely clear, just grass, was over farmed for 150 years. There's not a tree anywhere. So we've planted everything. So it was a blank slate for me. So I was really fortunate to be able to come into a blank slate and decide what trees were going to be around the garden to create that pillowing and block the wind off, etc., the shelter planting.
What trees did you choose for your shelter planting?
Oh, it's actually a combination. Our garden is like 95% New Zealand native, 5% Japanese species as it develops. So it's mostly, I wanted a native garden surrounding the bonsai garden, and I needed, so it's a mixed sort of shelter belt, I guess, of natives. Things that I know I can trim back if need be, and certain areas like south-facing areas where the trees can just grow as large as they want because they're not going to shade out areas of the bonsai garden. So that was all well planned. So sustainability, I guess, is the wider garden, you'd be able to maintain it without too much workload. If you're going to plant something that grows massively or too many trees that grow too quickly, but you want that Japanese feel, and you're going to be doing as much pruning on your wider gardening and not being able to keep on top of the bonsai themselves, if you're fortunate to have that kind of space. So that's the kind of sustainability when I'm designing gardens that we're thinking about. How much time realistically do you want to spend on the garden, the entire garden composition, and maintenance, because weeding is huge. You lay out these gravel areas and these gravel paths, maybe these beautiful raked Japanese sand areas. You've got to weed those. The weeds never stop. So think about that. So, because then otherwise you're spending a lot of time on the garden and not much time on the bonsais within that garden. So there's a balance to be struck there. Plan ahead.
Yeah. So there's that undertone of like time management too, like whether it's like maintaining your garden or just maintaining trees that are in refinement, and how much time do you have? I think it's a good consideration to figure out how much free time you have and how much you're willing to commit to it. And when you start to see some clarity there, it really will help dictate how many trees you have in your collection.
Yeah. Actually, when we were chatting last night, I mentioned that often with some of my clients, going into the garden, will know that some of the trees need to be moved on. And so how do they kind of get to that point of, okay, I've got to move these ones on and keep these ones, move these ones. A good way of going at it to begin with is to think, if you haven't set up your bonsai garden display area yet, and you would like to, think about realistically the size of your area and how many beautiful bonsai you would imagine on display in that area if you haven't designed and set up a display area yet. If you haven't got to that point and you've got many trees and you know you've got to move some on, sometimes it's a good idea to just get a few plinths in, monkey poles or some kind of display table, and only your best trees or favourite trees or most refined trees make it onto that area, and space them out so that they look beautiful. So don't just cram your favourites all in that one area, but actually space them out so visually you think this looks fantastic. It's a good amount of space between each tree for the horticultural purposes. And then take a step back and go, okay, 5 fitted in that area and look fantastic, but I've got a lot more trees. I'm just putting a number out there. But that becomes a good way that, okay, my favourite trees are in this part on display looking beautiful. And then you might sort of widen it and increase so you can put more beautiful trees on display, and it could end up that you've got 25, 30, 40 trees on display, depending on your space. But the other trees should be a competition to get those trees, those other ones, up into this display space. You'll have a lot of trees in development, obviously, long-term projects. They're not going to make it to this display area, but you've also got a lot of trees you're probably just experimenting with or mucking around with for years. That could be another 20, 30 years off being at the level of those ones that you've put on display. Yeah. Think about moving some of those on to other people and just be quite strict on, okay, this tree is looking really nice now. It deserves to be on display in this area. I need another display post or another table to display it. Or it bumps out one of those that's currently on display. So 1 in, 1 out. It's so difficult. No one sticks to it.
That's my golden rule right now. 1 in, 1 out.
Yeah, no one sticks to it. Let's be realistic.
Hey,
Most people are tree collectors. We don't want to say hoarders, do we?
Some people are.
I mean, I'm all about trees. The world can't have too many trees.
I was at
we need more trees.
Garden a couple years ago, and I stopped counting their trees when I broke 320. I was just like,
your capacity for counting was like, oh.
I don't get anxious, but I was thinking, I was like, wow, if I was here caring for these, it would be a lot of work.
Oh yeah, 300 plus. Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of trees at our garden, but I guess it's a different scenario when you're a professional and doing it as your full-time thing.
Yeah.
Of course, we have too many trees for me to stay on. Oh, even within our garden at the moment, it's mostly clients' trees on display in our garden currently, which might be about 70 trees in the actual, our kind of bonsai garden area with the display. And because I'm always traveling, I definitely struggle. I'm fairly efficient actually, but I do struggle to keep up the refinement on that amount of trees because I'm always traveling 70 to 80 trees. They're in various stages of refinement, but some of them that are really refined, we have to stay on top of in the growing season.
Yep.
Some of our natives too, man, they pump like a totara or a kakatea. You move those species, our natives, into refinement, and it's a beautiful thing, but it's a lot of work too. Where was I going with that tangent anyway? I don't know.
It just has to relate back to trees.
Oh, anyway, yeah, it's a lot of work. So, that's where I was going. I would like to ask other professionals around the world how many trees they would say they have in their garden at refinement level. If they don't have apprentices, how many trees they're keeping at a refined level realistically. Everyone's idea of refined would be different, but that's something I need to chat to with other professionals around the world. Like, for instance,
interesting topic, yeah.
Like, have you got 60 trees that are at a like highly refined level, and you don't have an apprentice, you're doing quite a lot of travel. How do you keep on top of that refinement? Is it stressful?
You can ask Jonas when he's here.
Yeah, I will.
Yeah,
I will. Yeah.
Why don't we talk about 2 more topics briefly, and then we'll go into current events?
That's a good idea. Yeah.
I'll go much further back in your travels. Please tell me about what you ran into in Rotorua recently.
Oh yes, so I went through Rotorua and the Coromandel area. Through Rotorua, that volcanic area, I found some amazing leptospermum. I haven't even chatted about this.
What did you say?
Like Manuka and Karnuka.
Yeah.
So the tea tree, the natives here, that grow on the edges of the hot pools, the volcanic sulfur hot pools. And those things are so blasted. It's not really alpine. It's because it's in the lower areas where those hot pools are. I guess it's sort of alpine, but through Rotorua, those areas where the New Zealand scrub is growing up against the actual volcanic vents, and it's all just white from lime sulfur. All the deadwood is bleached because it's constantly getting splattered with sulfur.
Yeah.
And the Manuka and Karnuka on the edges are all like tons of deadwood and just stark white.
Would you call them gnarly?
They're definitely gnarly.
Yeah.
But, oh, man, it was impressive. Like, I was just really looking at the edges of the hot pools and the vents where the sulfur and the heat, because it's 100 degrees Celsius, that mud that's blurting out, and the trees on the edge that have lived there for a long time, and they're still surviving on the edge, but they're just like burnt to a crisp in some areas because of the heat, but then they're bleached white. So it's like, it's hard to describe. I need to get some photos up, but I was really nerding out about that, how a tree survives on the edge of a volcanic vent like that.
Sounds awesome.
Talk about deadwood.
Did you see any swamp pines?
Oh yeah, and then in the Coromandel, I was going through some like floodplain areas and coastal areas where there's the coastal inlets, and those swamp marshes. I was just hanging out in those, looking at the native flora in particular. But because there's a lot of radiata pine forestry planted up in those hillsides, they've seeded down into some of the swamp marshes, and there were these gnarly radiatas growing in the swamps. So they're struggling and growing so slowly because it's sort of tidal, or whenever it floods, they're getting flooded, and pines don't like that kind of wet root. So they've really struggled, and they're all gnarly and low, and they're growing out of the reeds like our native oioi that grows in the swamp marshes. They're just kind of growing out really gnarly, amazing bark, and would probably be quite easy to lift because I investigated some. And they are wilding pines, so Doc's going to need them removed. But it's just so interesting to see how a pine, for instance, it's different. An old gnarly pine growing in a swamp marsh, it's struggling in a similar vein to being on the top of a mountain with lack of nutrient and in a craggy rock with not much moisture through winter, not much access to nutrients, and they've been smashed by the snow load, the rockfall, etc., the wind, and it's dwarfed them, that combination, alpine. But seeing these ones struggling in the same visual, aesthetically, they look like they could be on the side of a mountain, but they've struggled in a different way where they've consistently stayed too wet. So they've really grown really slowly. I'm guessing in the winter they're almost dying from root rot because they're not very stable either. They're kind of growing in, I guess, essentially potentially like a sphagnum moss type scenario. But you see like the guy from Michigan, Nebari on Instagram, Matt, those guys collecting those, they Western red cedar and stuff from the swamp marshes. Yeah, I mean, it's that scenario where those guys are collecting that sort of dwarfed cedar from a swamp marsh, which I guess, like I've seen these radiatas, when you study the growth of them, they've got a lot of dead roots and stuff. It's all rotted out. So they've grown so slowly, not because of lack of water, but because of too much.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
One repot that I'm excited about today is I have a rectangle that's got really good textural character on the sides, creating some shadow play. But in the corners of the pots, it's got some abstractish kind of skulls. Like some people see it right away, and other people are like, I don't see it.
Yeah.
It's a Felipe Torquatus from Nate's in France. It's going to get a gnarly Mugo that's exposed root put into it today, and I cannot
That's going to be a
that.
good combo. Yeah, that's going to be a fun repot for sure.
Next up, current events.
Current events. There's a lot happening.
So we got in 61 days, we have the Hamilton annual Bonsai show that's at the Hamilton Botanical Gardens on September 12th and 13th. Are you going?
Yes, I am. Hamilton Botanical Gardens too. If you haven't been to the Botanical Gardens before, it's world class. You should check it out. But tie it in with a visit at the Hamilton Bonsai show. So what's the date? That's October. September 12th and 13th, Hamilton. Be there or be a square.
What are you going to have a booth?
Yes.
We're going to do a little Q&A each day for 30 minutes.
Yes, about this podcast and us nerding out about trees.
Content.
Mm-hmm.
It's really exciting. The trade area has always got heaps of really fun material developed and undeveloped. Lots of pots, a variety of custom-made pots in New Zealand, as well as production pots from China that are suitable for our work. B Major will be there with some trees this year.
Oh, good.
Yeah. And then Dan Becker will be there. with some woodworks.
With some toothpicks.
And some tables.
Yeah.
He's made some really nice...
He's made some beautiful tables recently. You'll see some of them on display at the next show we're about to talk about.
Yeah, so in 89 days, Wellington is hosting a show on October 10th and 11th with guest artist Jonas Dupuis of Bonsai Tonight. He'll be here teaching multiple aspects of development. I'm trying to remember the phrase they're using for the show.
Oh, from raw to refined.
Yes, thank you. So it'll be great to see him. We've been turned on recently to a scroll painter. Stan Chan will be there. He likes to paint people's trees into scrolls. So
yeah, you can get a self-portrait of your tree. He'll paint your tree onto a scroll.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, so
he'll be there. Examples that looked really nice.
Yeah, so that could be exciting if your tree's on display and you want it painted onto a scroll.
Yeah, so if you attend either one of these and see us, come say hi so we could continue to nerd out and talk about trees and what we could discuss on future episodes. There's a topic that didn't make it on today's. It was tree translators that we'll discuss and how that phrase applies to us and all of us.
Yes, yeah, that's that communication through the tree. That'll be an exciting conversation. I mean, we have such a long list of things to chat about. It was crazy.
Yeah.
We've got so much to talk about.
Yeah, so this will be episode
12, maybe?
Yeah.
And then we'll be on to season 2.
Season 2.
Which will involve more chat about vampires.
Hopefully.
Maybe.
They got to be great.
Because we are still on search for some shifty vampires out there.
Local, certified. Yeah.
And can give us... I was thinking about this last night, actually. You plant a tree and you hope to see it out for 2,000 years. But let's be more realistic. But I was thinking it's interesting that if you want to live longer, really you should just do bonsai. Because that's a great thing to keep you going.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Purpose.
You could be bit by a vampire and be able to go for thousands of years. But if you don't, a good idea is to just keep working and being present with your trees.
It's never too late to start.
No, that's where we're going with that.
Excellent. I hope you are healthy and your trees are flourishing. And Adrian and I will get together next month as he'll be back in town for the Waikanai Deadwood Society's next workshop. And we'll keep you posted on what trees and pots and what all the peoples are doing with their bonsai.
Yeah. So thanks for tuning in, guys.
Take care. Have a great one.